Well, I guess, how about, well, we usually start with introductions. Why don't the people on Zoom go first? Just introduce yourself, starting with Amanda Herzog.
Hi, I'm Amanda Herzog, Chair of the Environmental Advisory Board, and happy to be here.
Then the other three people on Zoom, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Belem. There's dinosaurs behind me. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, my name is Belem.
And there's, is there two other people on the Zoom call? Sometimes they have a hard time. There you go.
Brenda, it looks like Brenda might be. That's it.
Don't know how to make it work.
There you go. We heard you. Hi, Brenda.
You did? Okay, thank you.
And then is there anybody else on the Zoom call that wants to introduce himself?
That's all of us.
Okay. And then my name's Tom Regan.
Hi, I'm Chris Hartwig.
Hi, I'm Josh Wright.
Hi, I'm Kathy Guest. Hi, I'm Melanie Macy.
And then well, I'll start with a capsule history. Do you want to hold it while I'm talking?
Yes.
And we can switch back and forth. I'll start with a capsule history. I mean, this whole thing got started was really Amanda Herzog and I at an environmental advisory board meeting. And we brought it up with Aaron Filipski since he's, just replaced Greg Rassel. And we had talked about it with Greg Rassel, and Greg Rassel said what Greg Rassel always said, which was,
At DPS.
I can think of a million different reasons why that won't work. So we dropped it with Greg Rassel. But Aaron's like, he's thinking of a million different reasons why this would work. Aaron can hear me, but I don't know. So we jumped ahead. We formed this citizens committee, which most of you were a part of as we went along. We talked to a bunch of different community garden people. We talked to the one in Ferndale, the one in Troy, the one in Pleasant Ridge. I know individual members talked to other community gardens around here. We visited about 15 different sites here in Royal Oak. And then we decided, let's ask for the lawn in front of the Lindell Ice Arena. And then that's where we hit the first roadblock. And even Aaron Filipski is like, yeah, that sounds good to me. I can't think of any reason why we couldn't use that piece of land. But then he talked to his recreation director, John Fideli, and John Fideli simply said no. And it was an arbitrary no. There was no discussion. There's no appeal, nothing like that. And so we sort of regrouped. We realized we had been resting on this kind of slender thread of putting all our eggs in one basket called Aaron Filipski. And it turned out to be not a good strategy. So we figured, well, let's regroup. Let's go back and talk to the city commission and ask them to tell staff to start a community gardening program. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And we thought, well, what better than the first city commission meeting in August? So we sort of chose that date arbitrarily, and we were kind of hoping by that time the in-person meetings would have resumed, and they have stuff like that. So right now we're looking at going to the first city commission meeting in August and asking them for a community garden program. And so now the question is, what do we want to ask them to do when we go to the city commission? What is it we want to ask for? Oh, pardon me. One other important point. We also, myself, Amanda Herzog, and Kathy Guest, we met with the Royal Oak School Board, the Royal Oak school superintendent, asking them if they were interested in participate in a community garden program, and they said yes. They'd actually already been thinking of it. And we asked about, well, what about Crooks, the lawn in front of the Royal Oak High School? And they said, yeah, we were thinking about right there where that construction staging area is happening. If we had a community garden there, we wouldn't have to replant grass. We thought, oh boy. So we're myself and Amanda are supposed to meet with them tomorrow at 4 p.m. and get an update from them. But so far it looked promising. But so we'll see what happens. And we do have some friends on the school board who would like to see this happen. So I don't think it's going to die. I think something's going to happen with the schools, but exactly what we'll find. We'll have a better idea tomorrow at the meeting at 4 o'clock. But meanwhile, if we set up a city community gardening program, even if the schools sort of help us on it, it's not going to be their program. They're just going to let us use their lawn. So we're back to going to the city commission meeting on the first Monday in August, and then asking them to do something. And so now the question is, what do we want to ask them to do? And anybody on Zoom, if you have any ideas for things we should ask for, go ahead and speak up. And I'll mention what Ann Beachy, Ann, are you on the call? No, she's not. But Ann Beachy did mention she thought that this had to be a city program. It had to be like something you would sign up for, just like when you get the city Insight magazine and you can sign up for classes over at the senior center or whatnot. That this needs to be the same type of thing, that we don't want to set up something that relies on sort of a volunteer power, that it'd be preferable to make this an official city thing. It would be a city run program. And I agree with that too. I think that's what we want to ask for. We want this to be a city program that you'd sign up for, just like you'd sign up for any other city recreational class or something similar.
So
I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think at the very least, we should ask for support on the record. I mean, I would say at least that.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Just to say, this is a group of residents. We're really interested in having a garden and we would like your support, that kind of thing. Just support. That would be, to me, at least go in there and asking for support. Maybe give them an update of what's happened so far and then see if, I know sometimes they start talking and maybe they have some ideas as well, or can give us more direction.
Does anybody have like, yeah, I guess what do we want to ask them to do?
So do you want it to be a recreation program? That sounds like what Ann maybe was saying. It's like it's a program that
Yeah.
would appear inside, and it would be like softball team. Like you can sign up to be a part of the community garden, right? And that requires all the background work that you want to have done, which is site, and it's ready, and having rules and so on. So is the request an expansion of the recreation program to include community gardens, or is it? If it's a city program, I think that's what it is. Or if what you're just asking for is land, and we'll do the rest.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to talk about. But
Yeah.
my druthers would be something like that. I was kind of curious what everybody else thought. And that was Ann Beachy's druthers too. And she said the same thing.
What was it? I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Well, the
Okay.
question was, what are we asking the city to do? Are we saying, just give us some land and we'll run the thing? And that's what Ferndale's Good Neighbor Garden is. They got a big chunk of land. They get a lot of support from the city, like they'll deliver mulch and this and that. But the thing is entirely volunteer run. They've got their Ferndale Good Neighbor Garden group organization, and they run the thing. They collect dues and so on and so on.
It's like a hybrid though, because they don't use the city logo or anything like that. They're more independent.
Yeah, they do get help from the city,
Yeah.
but they just
A blessing.
they run it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need so much more. I've been sending pictures to Tom of the Lathrop Village Community Garden that's new this year. And I just saw the Pleasant Ridge Garden. So, I mean, it needs to be fenced. That's something that we could ask for. It needs to be fenced in some fashion. Doesn't have to be chain link, but some kind of fence. Lathrop Village fenced, it wasn't chain link, it was something effective but less expensive. And we need a source of water. And I think we need to ask for supportive concept, but then there are actual things that we need. And unless we're willing to fundraise, I think these are things that are absolutes to get the garden started.
So you're saying it should be a city program?
Yeah, I do. I think making it a volunteer program makes it very difficult. And I thought the woman from Ferndale had sort of said that it was a little difficult being an all volunteer program. The woman from Troy, obviously Troy has a huge program with lots of city support. That was fabulous. So yeah, I would prefer to have support from the city for the things that we need. Some of the basics, fence, water, maybe we could manage to get material to make raised beds, but other programs have sheds, maybe we can get donations of other materials that we need, but yeah, I think it would be nice to have support of the main things, the structure, the bones of the community garden. And then we'll supply the labor.
Anybody else have an opinion? I don't know.
Tom, you had mentioned to me sponsorship to get some of those things. I thought that's a great idea. Somebody could have their name on the shed, their name on the fence.
Yeah,
So I don't know if we want this name on the fence, but True Green is currently looking right now very quickly for opportunities to fund things, and they're in the $3,000 to $10,000 range. And if anyone is interested in putting something together, I have a sample proposal that has been successful in the past, and I thought the community garden might be something they'd be interested in. I do think if you're asking the city for the infrastructure, the fence, the dirt, the water, that is not too hard. I think asking for money, not too hard. I think where they're gonna balk, and they're just gonna balk with John Cadelli, is they're not gonna want to be in charge of like registering and you know, making sure that it doesn't fall into disrepair, right? Because it can be a big job. So I think approaching with some sense of what responsibilities will be on whom once the thing exists would be helpful.
yeah, because I think almost all the other programs except for Ferndale do charge a fee.
Ferndale does too. They charge,
they
they
do
charge
too?
$10.
Okay,
yeah.
oh, so that's very modest
Yeah.
compared to most of, because I've heard 60 or more dollars.
Yeah, I think
for-
Troy's is 90 and.
Yeah, I thought I heard Lathrop Village was like 60 or somewhere in that area. So yeah, the administrative part of it, I think that's hard for volunteers to do, but that might also be a bump in the road for city support.
I wonder if it could be like other recreation programs where it's a class. So like Tom leads the class, right?
Oh.
And so they take the registrations and they take the money
Right.
and then they distribute to Tom or whoever, but and then you're in charge of making sure the class doesn't flop.
Because I mean, really, the money that would be collected, I would think would go for the infrastructure.
Right.
So, for example, a friend of mine knows of a community garden in the Upper Peninsula, and I can't remember the names of these things, but the huge plastic containers that are contained by steel bars, metal bars. Does anybody know what that's called? I've seen them. Pardon?
The hoop house, the hoop house?
No, this holds water.
Oh.
So this is
Oh,
your
like the
wa-
pigs?
but I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a giant water container.
A cistern.
No, it's not that, but because it's plastic, it's opaque, but then obviously plastic isn't that strong, so then it's in sort of a cage
Yeah.
that contains it. And
Yeah, there's rain barrels like that too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is huge though. This would be like 10 or more rain barrels worth. And that in Ironwood, the fire department comes and fills this up for them. So you don't have to, so, you know, because like Lathrop Village, they have a water line. The city put in a water line, one faucet, for the whole garden. But running water lines, I don't think that's gonna be feasible. So, but some way of getting water on site. And I thought that the community garden at Lincoln, where Lincoln Elementary used to be, had a water system like I'm describing. So,
Good, yeah, Troy's, they actually put a pipe to every plot.
yeah, I mean, I first of all, I think that's a little extravagant. And, you know, I don't think the school district is gonna run water from their building all the way up to that site. So I certainly wouldn't ask them to do that.
I mean, the site by the ice arena has water, correct? So could we just specifically ask for that site as a part of what we're asking for?
We
Or is
could,
that off the table?
we could. I mean, that's what we're here to decide. But,
Right.
I don't know if we want to get into a site discussion as opposed to, we want you to set this program up, you know? I remember like, this was like 12 years ago, but a bunch of us marched into a city commission meeting because a couple people had just been hit by cars in the street. And we demanded that they do something about setting up a non-motorized plan.
Mhm.
And so the commissioners actually appointed 3 of us to a ad hoc committee to explore that option. But and hopefully something like that would happen. They'd say, okay, we want you to sit down with city staff and come up with something. You know, I don't know if we want to get into a site discussion just yet. But we, I mean, we could, that's what we're here to discuss. But I think really the first question though is what do we want as far as like a city program versus an independent volunteer group? And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, we're leaning towards a city-run program.
So I think it'd be good to have a city-run program, but also one that's sort of self-running.
Yeah.
So it gives us the support of the city, but we also have a little bit of independence, and it's not a burden on the city and its staff or that sort of thing, or at least people would think.
Ferndale.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
hybrid.
I know like the Pleasant Ridge guy, he told me that thing pretty much runs itself.
Mhm.
And I think it's like Melanie said, I like that idea. Make it like a class.
Yeah.
And then like we could have a
couple
committee that would
yeah.
be like running the class. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would, it could be different skills, right? People who
Yeah.
know how to set it up, people who are master gardeners and,
Right.
um,
Yeah, because we do have several master gardeners that said they wanted to do instructional programs.
so it could be was a
Yeah.
learning experience, but also.
Yeah.
And I think you had said that's what the superintendent had said, that there may be an opportunity for students to become involved. Again, it's sort of an instructional thing. They would
Yeah.
learn, they would be able to learn
That'd be great.
how to garden through there. So,
Did you guys on the Zoom have any opinion as the question of a city program versus a completely volunteer run program, independent?
If
So
it
I
was
guess
a
I'd call that-
city program, who would receive the food or the vegetables? Or how would that work once we actually got the vegetables to produce?
Well, we've talked about that before. We anticipated everybody would have their own plot and they'd be responsible for their own plot and they'd keep everything they grew. Because the
Okay.
alternative is if you make it a communal effort, then you get the whole tragedy of the commons issue, which we'd rather avoid,
Okay,
plot, so they get.
I like it being a collaboration with the city and volunteers and doing it through the Parks and Rec. We're gonna also need some legal support with the schools. I think the school will feel a little bit more comfortable if it is through the city as well. The Environmental Advisory Board does have the ability to fundraise too, so we can help fundraise for things that we might need for the community garden.
it's
So
so
they can
sad they
have
got rid of at the school, the CVEC, they used to call it CVEC, the OTEC, they got rid of the horticulture program. I wish they didn't.
If the school side is a first choice, there's a city school liaison meeting coming up where city leaders and the school leaders are meeting at one time. And so if this is something that you want city input on, then it will be on the school district plans. That could be something you can bring to that meeting as well. Can't remember if it's next week.
shut that kid up.
He has
Yeah,
very strong opinions.
I just hope there's no, I think it makes it a little awkward having it be a school site with the city paying for the infrastructure, but as long as all of
It
those
is awkward.
We-
yeah,
We're
So-
technically would be renting it. It's not like, we have to have an agreement with them. They're like renting us that space.
oh, okay.
Just like they're renting the construction company that space.
Right, okay. No, that's true.
Okay.
The- My understanding from having been on the school board is that the city rents Grant Park from the school district for $1 a year, where the Grant School used to be. So something like that, where it's
Yeah,
not,
yep.
it's not, you're not figuring the value of the land and what you could get for
Right.
it. It's just, it just solidifies the agreement,
Yes.
formal agreement. Yeah.
So it sounds like we got clear consensus. We would like to see a city program and not an independent volunteer committee. What do people think about Melanie's idea of making this? And we could be like specific like this, saying, make this a class. And the people running, who put themselves in leadership positions on the garden would be like teaching the class. And people would sign up for it, just like you'd sign up for a class in the Insight magazine.
I think
I
that
like
helps with administration, like administrating the whole thing. If that's what Parks and Rec, if that's how they would like to set it up, I think that's a good idea.
Because they've already got that infrastructure set up. It's not like they'd have
Right.
to do anything except a few computer keystrokes.
Right, yeah.
And that's.
I think it's
the
a great idea. Oh, sorry.
Parks and
Oh, I
Rec.
think that's a great idea because that's initially what drew me to the project was that I don't know anything about gardening and I figured if I surround myself with experts, I should rub off. So I think it's great to assume that not everyone who wants to be involved is an expert gardener. I think that's great. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I think it makes it more appealing to the city too. Because it's not just like having to worry about its liability. It's like it's a class. We're
Right.
offering a teaching experience to people. And
It's a good way to couch it.
Yeah.
Then I guess another idea that, we've had a number of meetings on this and people were kicking around ideas. And another idea that people had was that we're not going to find a piece of land in Royal Oak big enough to accommodate everybody who's interested because Royal Oak's got too many trees. And so we'd want the city to set up a program to cut down all these trees. No, no, we'd ask the city to.
What can you say about that?
Yeah. We'd ask the city to set up a program so that interested people could apply to use a piece of land, to put a piece of land under cultivation that's not being cultivated right now. And this reminds me that I got that Facebook post from Eric Tungate. He's the city manager over in Oak Park. And he was bragging about the Oak Park's sunflower program where they just plant the hell out of sunflowers everywhere. That seems like that would be a perfect match for something like that. Say somebody saw a piece of land where they'd like to plant sunflowers. They didn't want to set up a whole garden. They just wanted to put in a bunch of sunflowers or just flowers or whatever, or they wanted to grow vegetables or something, but that there needs to be some system set up so that interested people could apply for that and not just get the arbitrary no. You know.
And that's an interesting scenario too, because do you remember, I think it was January, February, I invited him to our environmental advisory board meeting. And I cannot remember, it was something that maybe it was a sunflower program, but I knew he was very focused. What he's doing on 9 Mile and making it kind of like sort of like a park environment and very bike friendly with all kinds of places to put your, get air in your tires and picture bike and stuff like that. And then he started talking about the sunflowers and I thought, that's just another really great idea. But he has students in the Oak Park School District that got the seed started. And I think that, I don't know what kids were like, but somebody came and helped plant those. So it was a big group effort. He helped organize that. And I thought that was fun. Yeah.
So I think we should also address a concern that might come up, which is maintenance, long-term maintenance. So we get this started, everybody's enthusiastic, and then what if people start losing their enthusiasm? So who's ultimately responsible? Do we organize ourselves into a formal group? So we are the responsible people. I mean, certainly we don't want to make one person, like the person who is the head of teaching the class, responsible. But I think we should have be able to provide some insurance that there's a group of people who are going to be responsible. So if weeds get out of control or people don't come and maintain their plat, which in my discussions with other people I know somebody who ran one at their church and she said, believe it or not, even though people pay for plats, they've planted, they're excited. And then by August, they're done with it and they don't even come back and pick what has been grown. So somebody else has to maintain it. So we do need to think about that. Who's going to be the backup?
And that's in the bylaw of like the Good Neighbor Garden that you have to invest like one Saturday for an hour to a month, which is doing everything. I don't know, force that.
Yeah.
They just leave.
Well,
But
then,
that is part of it.
all right. So then maybe we just make that clear. You pay your money. You're responsible for the entire growing season. You have to come back all through the growing season and then in the fall. And
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. Most of these places, they've got a waiting list for plots. And the plots are 4x4. Even if someone completely ignores it and lets it go to hell, it's just a 4x4 raised bed. Yeah.
all right. I mean, I'm just saying, I know other places where people didn't maintain and other people had to step in.
Yeah,
So,
that happens.
Yeah.
Clause and it's like, if yours is in disrepair after X amount of time, we'll give you a notice. And if not, then somebody's gonna take it over.
Right.
there
Yeah,
you
we'll
go.
give it to the person on the waiting list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really, I want to avoid the whole tragedy of the commons thing, people are responsible for their plot, and if they don't keep it up, someone else gets it.
Right,
And
okay.
If they have a bumper crop, which they probably will, they can always donate. We've got lots of resources to
Yeah.
donate.
Yeah, and that would be,
Yes, exactly.
and that's a good
Yeah.
idea, because we should let people know.
Mhm.
you
But
know.
as far as, I'm just gonna try to return to this, because as far as our demands that we make at the city commission meeting, and then because this was something we've kicked around at several meetings, do we want to ask the city to set up a program so that interested people can apply to put some city-owned land under cultivation? Is that one of our demands? Or is that something we just talked about and don't care about now? I'm interested in hearing everybody's opinion on that. Because we do want to make some specific demands at this commission meeting. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place.
So are you talking about like space between the street and the sidewalk that's an easement, technically the cities, but somebody wants to do something special with, that's not in front of their house, or I'm trying to envision.
Well, this came up,
what would
we were
that
down
be?
at Salter, and there's like this area on Salter that might hold 2 or 3 plots.
Right, I recommend.
Should
that.
people be able to say, hey, I'd like to do something right there, like plant sunflowers or whatever.
I
Do we
think
want?
that,
Go
I
ahead.
think that might dilute the message of the community garden, the initial community garden. And that using the green space with the sustainability plan to do it there, and then implementing the other green spaces that way. Did I explain that right?
So you're saying don't bring this up in
So
August.
at this commission meeting, only speak of the one community garden, because they might get really confused and it might dilute the message of what we want to do. And then use the sustainability plan to plan out how to use other green spaces within the city.
That
That
makes
sounds
sense.
good. Yeah. Yeah, and
Hmm.
I mean, if it's a pilot to begin with and it can't accommodate everybody the first year, I don't think that's necessarily so terrible, because the first year will kind of be an experiment, and it doesn't need to be a grand experiment. Better if it's kind of a smaller experiment. So, I mean,
Tom only thinks big.
I know.
I mean,
Tom
people have been
does, but-
growing, people have been planting seeds in the ground and growing them for tens of thousands of years. It's not much of an experiment.
No, I know, but I.
We know it's gonna work.
Again, right, but I'm just thinking of like,
Well, it's fine.
of my own yard, how easily the weeds can get away from you, and, people let things get growing that then are a problem.
It's the community part that's the experiment. It's the
Yeah.
people part.
Not
Yeah.
even there though, because there's community gardens all over the place. I mean, we know this works. Even,
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be a failed experiment, but I think for the naysayers, this needs to be the proof of concept.
Right, so that's why I think we have to have backup, so that some group is responsible if people let things get out of hand. It's gonna be highly visible, so we want it to be
Well,
attractive.
Well, I mean, part of the proof of concept is the pilot garden. We've already started at the church.
Yes.
Oh,
Um,
that's where you're
Yes.
from. Okay,
Yes.
I
Yes.
connection,
Yes.
okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so I mean, that is kind of an illustration of how it can work, and we've got people signing up. We've got people contacting me, contacting others, joining the Facebook group, and we've managed to put together people to cover so far, and it's been working really well, even to the point now where we probably need to talk about harvesting some of the cucumbers that are starting to come up, and kind of dropping them off at the church office. Anyway, but yeah, part of the proof of concept is this pilot garden we've already gotten, and we can, there's plenty of room to expand it as well in the future. If we wanted to, we could put another 2, 3, at least 4x4 plots in there.
I love that.
Bring some pictures.
Yeah, we should bring, I was just going to say that we should bring some pictures.
Kate has some, I have some.
I mean, I don't need some now.
Yeah, right. So
Then the Facebook.
What did you
Yep.
say, Amanda?
I was going to say, bring some pictures to the meeting to show that, like, this is our proof of concept.
Too slow, Amanda.
and then I just have one more point that Josh brought up earlier is, do we want to demand that area in front of the ice arena? And especially if the school district changes their mind and says, no, we can't have the school district plot, because there's certainly no guarantee. Do we want to mention that lawn in front of the Lindell Ice Arena at the city commission meeting?
Well, the commissioners are gonna ask Aaron, or who's the rec guy?
John Fidelli.
So they're gonna consult with their city employees, and if if the decision is that they don't think that's a good site, then we're gonna run into a dead end again.
Well, no, we're
I
going
think what
around.
we should do,
We hit that dead end. Now we're going around into the commission. Yeah, so. Go
I
ahead,
think we
Amanda, I'm
should,
sorry.
so tomorrow we'll find out more if we're moving forward with the school district. So if we are, then that's great. I think we could say that, like, we've already located a site. But if it falls through tomorrow, we should tell them, we would like a site determined by fall of 2021. Like, have a date of when we can find that site, so that it doesn't get pushed and so that we can actually start next year.
Yeah, that's a good point, but I don't know that we should specify the site.
Yeah,
No.
they'll want Aaron to do that.
Yeah, remember on our tour, there was some possibility of using exchange.
So I agree that I think letting them, if we specify a site, it gives them an easy way to say no. and
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if we don't specify a site, they just said, you pick.
right. you
And
pick.
in
Yeah.
terms of exchange, I talked to Aaron Flipsky about exchange, because that was my preferred site for the community garden. And I said, one issue we had was the water out there. And he's like, well, exchange is long-term due for toilets. Which, by the way, the neighbors don't want. But that aside.
Because it brings too many people to the park.
That's what they said.
Well, Plus more environmentally friendly for people to just,
Yeah.
do their business on the neighbor's
I
lot.
know, I was
right?
like, you don't want to know where my son is going on the soccer games. But anyway, so the long-term plan is to put toilets there. So I think if we put the pressure on them to pick a spot and, exchange is one of the many possibilities, they could work it into existing plans to update infrastructure.
Yes, I think that's a really good idea.
So,
Yeah,
and
ask them to pick it if they didn't like our suggestion.
Right, and I think we can provide them, here are our 10 best top choices.
Right,
right? This is what we
Right.
want.
Because they dug up the tennis courts over, I think it's called Franklin Park, it was by the old Franklin School. I don't know what they're doing there. That's gonna be all just bare dirt. And I wonder about Red Run. Greg Raffel was telling us years ago that Red Run tennis court might be coming out. They're either gonna fix it or get rid of it. And
Oh, but
Vermont,
you know
by your
what?
house.
I know, but right now, my neighborhood is like a war zone
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
because they're doing the
Holes
You're
the
right.
gas and the
It
water
is,
line
it's terrible.
replacement. So, and I thought the letter that I got from the city said that was gonna go on until October.
Okay,
So I don't know that we can plan for anything there. There's already enough going on.
maybe future, maybe future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the only other thing I had on my agenda was who's going to talk at the commission meeting, and I guess how many people should we have talk? And how would they divide up their testimony? Who would want to talk there? Well, Melanie be on the commission, so she can say anything she wants.
Here, let's we talk.
Does anybody want to say something there?
Josh, talk about your garden you did?
Sure, I can talk about that. Never spoken to one of these things, just watch them on TV and laugh at them.
On that, how much time do you have?
3 minutes.
Which is actually.
Yeah.
You start to repeat yourself.
Yeah,
You'll find.
yeah.
And we could ask Mike to let us go bang, bang, bang in the order that we want. I'm sure he'd agree.
And someone who's done a community garden before, like, some other experience doing that?
Well, we've got a Royal Oak resident who runs the Troy Community Garden.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been a couple of our meetings on Zoom. But she's one of the people we lost when everything went to shit.
I ran the.
I'll say a few words. Then we'll get Nikki. Would anybody else? Amanda, would you like to say something? It'd be good if you did.
Sure, I can say something, or I can do a public comment about how the board supports this initiative, whatever you want, I'll do it. I'm the community garden wing woman.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, I think saying that the Environmental Advisory Board supports this would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Amanda's also on the County Parks Commission. So
yeah.
Okay.
So, no, but I mean, just to, maybe not everybody knows
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, just to make the point that the advisory board fully supports the concept. So I haven't run a community garden. I've gardened at a lot of the schools and my own garden and other people's community gardens, but I've never run one, so.
So testifying will be Josh, Tom, I'll ask Nikki, and then Amanda Herzog. Does anybody else want to like officially testify? And I guess the last thing would be, is we need to get a good crowd there. If we don't get a good crowd there, that would be the same as saying there's not many people interested in this. So we'll need to go back and get all those people who were interested at the start and they've kind of fallen away. We'll need to get them back engaged.
Oh, so
But,
you want us to just be in the audience?
Oh, yeah, we'd want
even
a
if we're
crowd
not
there.
Speaking,
Yeah.
and wear one of these t-shirts?
Yeah, wear a t-shirt,
Oh, there you go.
carry a sign, carry a plant, whatever. Yeah. I think like gimmick like that would be good. Yeah, I could bring some zucchini from my garden, Christ knows I got enough of it.
Uh-oh, I don't see any napkins or anything out here, sorry.
Don't use a shirt.
And what time is the city commission meeting?
7:30 PM. It's on August something or other. I don't have a
August
calendar in front of me.
9th.
Yeah, I'd have to look at
Monday,
my-
that's a Monday.
I've got the Zoom call going, so I can't look.
And then I can never remember if they're at 7 or 7:30.
7:30.
7:30, okay. And
But
how are people gonna get these t-shirts? If they want one.
Kathy has them.
Kathy, people can come.
Show 'em-
get a
show her the
t-shirt
t-shirt,
from you.
Cool.
Yeah, so just let me know, so I know what we have left over. And
So do we need to make a donation for these or? how
no,
does this
it
work?
was a donation, so we're okay.
Really?
Yeah, so this is the
So I can
company.
have one?
Yes, yes, yeah, so this is what we've got. I asked those folks, they used to do a store on the website. They don't anymore. They just do bulk orders, unfortunately. So we can like kind of try to figure out, but on the well supply slash, you can see what it says. They run a little small, I think.
I think there were new one.
And then does
Yeah.
anybody
They're
else?
soft 'cause they're, recycled bottles and tencel, wood tencel and organic cotton, and they're very sustainable. They're made in Haiti by an American company to keep families together. So families that were separated because they couldn't afford to take care of their children get employed by All Made with a good salary, and they get their families. It's
Then-
not that-
Does anybody else have any other points they want to make before we adjourn? Anything we missed or any ideas you had for things we should do in August or even ideas for after that? Anything about the garden?
I have some ideas. As usual. One, Andrew Sarpolis was talking about possibly doing, now this was over drinks, so it hasn't been formalized, but selling native plants at the farmer's market, since there really isn't anyone doing that, as a fundraiser for the EAB, which could be a fundraiser for the community garden. So that's one. And then two, I just got an email about this today about the city is going to be doing this thing called Royal Oak Sights and Sounds. I think they're going to have like a concert in the City Hall parking lot and other kid events, artisans, food trucks. And there's a couple of days, August 27th, September 10th, and September 24th. And we're going to have a table there. So if there's any like next steps for the community garden, they can join us at that table. I don't know if you want to give out anything or fundraise or just get the word out, whatever. You guys can join us with that if you want.
So one related to that, then one of our demands at the commission meeting could be, you need to decide something. You need to tell us something by September because we need to start signing people up while the weather is still clement at some of these community
Oh,
events.
good point. Yeah, we need to have a deadline. Yeah. If we're gonna start something, if we're gonna prepare the garden in the fall for the following spring. Good point.
And we need to sign people up like
Right,
these three events that,
right.
yeah, and then there's Arts Beats and Eats, which would be nice one too. Just set up a table. Are you interested in having a plot next year? I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
So, Brendan Nolan, runs out of his home, something called Plants for Ecology, which are native plants. He used to, for years, he sold his plants on the west porch of the Royal Oak Farmers Market. I bought some plants from him.
Mhm.
The last 2 years, he has partnered with the Clinton River Watershed Council to sell his native plants. So, and that already happened in June. I mean, most of the native plant sales happened in June.
Yeah.
So if we were gonna do native plants, we'd have to find somebody that still had native plants to sell at this. Are you talking about now, this time of the year?
You know, we didn't really get that far.
Oh, okay.
I think he was just saying in general for the EAB, and so where that money would go. I mean, there was a little bit of talk of it going to Bob Mueller with the Nature Society, or, you know, but this is also something that we support, so.
Well, just so
Closer.
you know, in the past, Brendan Nolan came to our Earth Day events to sell
Mhm.
plants. Well, okay, he came to them, but April is too early for native plants. So he came with information about them and when people could actually get them. So he has participated with us before. So just throwing that out. He's a Royal Oak resident and he's very knowledgeable about native plants, and he would be, I think, our guy.
Okay, great, yeah. Andrew really wants native plants in everyone's yard. Like, I think that's his mission.
So, I got one of those, flats of 1 billion native plants last year, like at the very end of the season, like September, from Friends of the Rouge. So they
Oh.
continued to sell through the year, and they got much more discounted because they weren't sure they were gonna survive. But they did. So,
Because they're native.
Oh, so,
And fall's a good time for planting.
oh, absolutely. So if you could find a group like that, that was still had native plants in the fall, that would be great. I mean, I don't know of any, but you said Friends of the
Friends
Rouge?
of the Rouge, I think is what I got.
Okay,
I'm trying to look it up right now, but my phone is not cooperating.
so it sounds like from what you mentioned there, Amanda, that we should make the point that we'd be willing to do some fundraising for this thing, even though it's a city program.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't know what we need, but it's just an option that we can do. You know, in the past, the board hasn't been able to fundraise, but now that is an option for us. So just to like put it out there, if you think you need it.
Well, I guess I'll let you say that. Well, we can email about our testimony, how we want to divide it up, but that'd be a
Yeah.
good point for you to make as EAB chair. Did anybody else have any points they want to make about the garden or?
just that I think we have enough, I think we should make the point that we do have master gardeners involved and that this will be the lowest maintenance project that we can make it. So for example, the pathways in between the beds should be wood chips. They shouldn't be grass that has to be mown because that's just extra work. So in the one, I took pictures of the one in Lathrop Village so that all their beds are surrounded by wood chip pathways to keep it low maintenance. Again, the fencing, not chain link, some kind of heavy duty netting that they put. It's like an 8-foot deer fence.
Yeah, almost like a chicken coop.
Have you
Yeah.
seen it?
No, we used it at the middle school. We've seen
Yeah.
all those posts.
Yeah,
Very
so
effective.
again, we'd be happy to, we want low maintenance. We're looking for low cost, lowest cost possible. We're not trying to make this an expensive proposition. I think would be
Yeah.
some good selling points.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, you're asking money. There's money in that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could we get some of this pandemic money in
I
there?
think
Yeah.
money is one thing that this is a good year to ask.
Oh, well, then we should ask for a shed. My daughter lives near this Lathrop Village community garden. She said they just put their shed up. So they did have to pour a concrete pad for that. The city had to pour a concrete pad and they just put a shed on there. So, yeah, I mean, a shed on a concrete pad would be nice. I pick up things that I see at the curb that people throw out that would be handy, like wheelbarrows, wagons. I mean, people throw out all kinds of gardening stuff. So I can start collecting if I know this is really gonna happen. You know, tomato cages, you know, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. People put that fencing, people put all that stuff out to the curb, so.
Yeah, we could even have a drop off your gardening stuff day, donate your.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I do too.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody on the Zoom call, any other points you want to make?
No, that's good.
No, it sounds great.
Anybody else have anything to say before we adjourn?
Oh, yeah, one other thing. It's gonna be no pesticide, no insecticide, chemical-free garden. So I think we should make that clear.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to do it on school property anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, the only time you can use something, you get notice. We're
Yeah,
not gonna go there.
yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
in
that's
case
not-
that's,
I don't know, the city might have the same protocol.
We
as
do.
the school district.
yeah, so chemical-free. it's
So
gonna be
people know, don't
chemical-free.
bring your Roundup
Exactly,
or
Yeah.
your insect.
yeah, right. All right, that's it.
Okay. I think we're going to adjourn unless anybody on the Zoom call has anything else they want to add.
Oh,
No.
that's great.
Thank you.
The only thing I'd stress is
No.
make sure we get a large crowd at that commission meeting. Start talking this up, and I'll post all the Facebook stuff and all that, but start sharing it and encouraging people and reminding people and et cetera, et cetera. Because if we don't get a large crowd there, it's going to be the same thing as saying not many people are interested in this thing. So we really need to pull out all the stops.
So
Is it
the
a hybrid
first-
meeting or an in-person? Oh, okay. So it might be hybrid, but it'll certainly be in person. So we want to ask people to plan on being there in person. They can get a T-shirt from Kathy. Kathy will be there with a bunch of T-shirts, but we will need a crowd there.
So it's August 2nd, the first Monday?
I don't know if I'll be
What's
there.
the
I
date of the
usually fly
commission?
by-
August 9th, Monday, August 9th, 7:30 PM at the new City Hall. Unless there's anything else, I'll go ahead and adjourn the Zoom call.
Sounds good.
Sounds
Okay.
good.